I realized a long time ago that a lot of the music I love is largely a mess of noise and imperfection. Garage band sessions, where the drums have been mixed on a single microphone. Lo-fi recordings, where sounds drift and bedroom mics crackle, prove that interesting music can be made in spite of technological problems or accidents. But there's a wide range of sounds I really dig that are intentionally noisy, and not in a cliched heavy metal way. You should be so lucky. Instead, let's see if I can coax you out on a limb to listen to some intriguingly interesting, god-awful rackets. I'm talking about noise music. Under its broad umbrella can be found avant-garde music and sound art using cacophony, dissonance, atonality, and repetition to deliver results. Noise musicians can feature acoustically or electronically generated sounds, randomly produced electronic signals, static, hiss, feedback, custom noise software, non-musical instruments, and vocal elements that can push noise toward the edge of listenability. I guess you could think of noise music as anti-music. I think a lot of people do, which is why they generally stay away from it. But I prefer to consider it raw, sensual, strangely beautiful, and cathartic. That's pretty much what good music is to me in any genre, in any case. Noise music can be traced to the early 1900s, when a number of art music practitioners began exploring atonality. Classical composers such as Erik Satie and Arnold Schoenberg proposed the incorporation of sounds and harmonic systems that were, at the time, considered dissonant. For many, though, it was John Cage's 1952 composition 4 minutes and 33 seconds, in which an audience sits through 4.5 minutes of silence that represented the true beginning of modern noise music. 4:33 consists of all of the sounds of the environment that the listeners hear while it is performed. The first postmodern wave of noise music appeared by the late 1970s, with musicians as varied as Throbbing Gristle, Laibach, Cabaret Voltaire, Nurse with Wound, Einstürzende Neubauten, and Glenn Branca. These artists performed using a wide range of approaches, including mixing loud metal percussion, unconventional instruments such as jackhammers and bones, computers, and guitars. The term Japan noise seems to have largely fallen out of use, but you can't think about noise music without considering the Japanese scene of the late 1980s and early 1990s. The undisputed king of Japan noise is Merzbow, aka Masami Akita. His sound consists of musical debris, pulses, feedback, hisses, whirs, blasts, distortions, pure tones, shrieks, machine noise, all played at extreme volume. Merzbow creates a sort of ambience in which the omnipresent sound becomes noise, and unrelenting noise becomes background. As is usually the case, artists inspired by initial noise music subsequently incorporated different influences from other places to invent new subgenres. One such subgenre is cut-up harsh noise. In this case, a specific synth sound may blast through the speakers for 1/4 of a second, then be muted, followed by white noise for half that time, which is then muted, then replaced by the sound of metal clanking for 1/3 of a second, and so on, for extended periods. And of course, if there's a subgenre that goes in one direction, why not go in the opposite direction? Enter harsh noise wall, music made from extremely distorted, unchanging static drones. Subtle shifts slowly morph over time as certain crackles or frequencies enter and dissipate. Noise music has many forms and can be as brutal as death metal, as dark as black metal, and as extreme as grindcore. if I haven't scared you off yet, here are a few recommendations for getting untuned with noise. 20 Jazz Funk Greats, Throbbing Gristle, 1978. The title and cover art are legendary, with the smiling group posed atop Beachy Head, a notorious English jumping-off spot for suicides. Neither jazz nor funk, it does contain less chaotic songs than the band's first two albums. The music is an industrial hellscape of schizophrenia, frequently matched up to weirdly irresistible grooves. It's as good a starting point as any for the noise curious. Collapse, Einstürzende Neubauten, 1981. This is one of the albums that started the true industrial noise and power electronics genres. A ton of metallic percussion, steeped in echo, throughout the album gives the factory noise feel. The addition of tape loops, electronic drums, feedback squalls, and howls make this a classic. The Ascension, Glenn Branca, 1981. Branca was a predominant influence in New York's no-wave and noise music, with Sonic Group being the most obvious output. This LP is fueled by obtuse melodies with surprisingly danceable moments. The disciplined cacophony generated by a guitar orchestra blasting pure dissonance becomes almost classical, relatively speaking, of course. Soundtracks for the Blind, Swans, 1996. Swans make some of the most unsettling, disturbing, downright freaky music ever recorded. This LP, from the end of their first period, incorporates all of the band leader's Michael Gira's trademarks. Sounds include noise explosions and all-encompassing feedback, eerie vocal samples, startling emotional post-punk, and creepy ambient and post-rock inspired music. Merzbow, 2010. Despite the title, this box set of previously unreleased tracks is not your father's ambient music, not even Brian Eno's. Instead of Masami Akita's typically deafening harsh noise, here he focuses on playful melding of digital sounds with real acoustical instruments, such as bits of metal and junk, wires, a violin bow, etc. It's not exactly ambient, though. There is always so much happening and so many incredible tones to work through that listening to noise music can start to sound like an archaeology dig. An exhausting one, but exciting and rewarding to me nonetheless. My next and last out on a limb trip will be a complete 180. If you like your tunes short, sharp, and sweet, make sure to subscribe so you can power pop with me.